From Santa Barbara, California, the Timeless Voyager series, where the knowledge is timeless and you are the Voyager. Interviews with leading-edge authors and speakers, psychic phenomena and the unexplained, UFOs, extraterrestrial encounters, government cover-ups, alternative healthcare, new technologies. Fasten your cosmic seatbelts and join me, your host, Bruce Stephen Holms, the Timeless Voyager.
A lot of you are interested in ETs and the pickups and mass landings and all those things. So today we're going to address a lot of these issues with, I believe, one of the most important authors and speakers in the UFO/ET/spiritual realm. My guest, Alex Collier, has had an ongoing extraterrestrial contact for many, many years. Let me introduce you to Alex Collier. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you, Bruce. It's great to be here.
How have you been?
I've been tired, actually. We have a new addition to the family, and he's on a different clock than us.
I know that one real well. Yeah, anyone who's had children knows exactly what we're talking about. If you don't have children, let me suggest that you not have them.
No, they're great.
I love my kids. Okay, so let's start with the Hale Bop comet. I just happen to have in front of me a copy of the Center of Attention, which I think you've probably heard of.
Yes, I have.
All right, and for those of you who don't know what Center of Attention is, Jason Dunlap out of San Francisco area puts out a very interesting newsletter on a regular basis, almost, I guess, every 2 weeks. I get the internet version, and Center of Attention is one of the newsletters I get. Here's what the headline says. Planet Nibiru to orbit near Earth, and so on and so forth. And there's a little bit of information about the Hale Bop comet, that it's not a comet. And we are going to talk about that for a little while today because my guest, Alex Collier, not only knows about this stuff, but has some very interesting privy information that comes from his extraterrestrial contacts. So before we talk about Hale Bop, maybe we should just talk, maybe quickly, tell our audience a little bit about your past and why I have you on my show. Not only because I like you, but your information is pretty darn good there, Alex.
Oh, God. Thanks, Bruce. About me. Boy, you asked the toughest question first. I'm just, a regular, complicated, simple guy, and started having these experiences when I was 8 years old in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at my grandparents' cabin, or I guess I should say a step-grandparents' cabin. And they've been ongoing for now over 31 years. It's not consistent. There's absolutely no pattern. There's been stretches where there's been years of absolutely no contact, not a word, not a peep, just wondering. And but they've come back because apparently there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of it deals directly with what we call third density, or the third dimension, and also consciousness. There's just an awakening, and I know I know other radio personalities like
you can say Art Bell.
Okay, Art Bell uses the expression "the quickening."
Everybody always used to say to me, "Bruce, do you listen to Art Bell?" And of course, Art's a good man. He's a good friend. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, that's the expression he uses, and it's very apropos to what's going on, and everybody's beginning to feel crisis, feel like change is imminent, and it is. And the reason the Andromedans have come back, and I use that, and I'll explain that, is because...
Yeah, we better explain this, because up until a few minutes ago, we weren't talking about the Andromedans.
Well, that's not exactly true. They've been
I mean, on the show we haven't...
Sure. Yeah. Well, I haven't done any other radio but your show.
I know, but I meant, incidentally, I appreciate that, and our listeners should know this. I feel very, very gratified that you're the only, or I'm the only one that you'll even consider doing.
Well,
I'm not sure I understand why, but
well,
okay.
You don't need to.
Right. Let's see. First of all, you have this ongoing contact with some people. These are people.
They're human beings.
Human beings. People need to. Our listeners need to understand that the human being seems to be one of the choice bodies.
Apparently, it is.
And this,
a lot of us.
Right, and this group is from the Andromedan, the Andromedes.
Andromedan constellation. They come from a solar system called Zenitae, and there is a council that meets there, that particular sector. There are several councils. You know, there's not just one grand one. There's several, and they're human beings, and they were here 62,000 years ago. And between 62 and 65,000 years ago.
Right. What's 3,000 years?
So, and some of them were left here. I don't have all the details. Apparently, there was a skirmish with another colony that was here, and they left, and some of their race were left here, and have incarnated, been caught up in the Earth's reincarnational cycle, and they're still here. And this has happened with a lot of other races. Anyway, they would like us very much. They would very much like to see us evolve because we are so unique in that, because of our genetics, because of our soul essence, because of where we apparently came from. And this is all their perspective. I have no way of proving a lot of this, Bruce. Not till I leave the physical body, then it's probably a different story, but I'm not willing to check it out yet.
We don't need to prove anything. This is Timeless Voyager Radio. We are beyond proof.
Well, but it's important to just lay that out there.
Okay, now you have... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's...
Well, you have two Andromedans that you frequently speak with, or at least communicate with, and I wonder if we could get their names together so people know who we're talking about.
Okay, Mornay and Phaseus. Mornay is very tall. He's approximately 7'6", 7'8". He's in that range. He's huge. He's over 400 pounds. He's light blue skinned.
And he just signed a $100 million contract with one of the big basketball groups, right? No,
yeah, I don't know. I think the Cowboys could use him as a center.
All right.
And then there's Phaseus, who is very much the opposite. Is elderly. In Earth years, Mornay has told me he's over 4,000 years old in Earth years. And he's paled. His skin, as they get older, it gets whiter. And he is considered a sage, would be the word that I would use here in his system. And they have basically been telling me a lot about our history, and that we as a race have never had a chance to truly evolve on our own. We have been manipulated from the get-go. And they feel that we have something very unique to bring to the galactic family, but that it's being suppressed by other races in the solar system. I mean, not the solar system, but in our galaxy. And there are several groups that have a very different philosophy. And what it is, Bruce, basically is, and I'm just going to lay this out there, they say that because we have the primate gene and the human gene, which was, our physical forms were genetically created, that our bodies are able to hold an extreme of emotion that apparently most other races have forgotten.
Now, when we say races, we're talking about extraterrestrial races.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Some human, some not human. Apparently, they saw passion as being a real problem in their past. The past of our galaxy is littered with devastating wars, apparently, between races and between belief systems, concepts, perceptions. And they saw that this passion as being their weakness. So many of the races, and then apparently the Greys are involved in this, were part of this mindset, that they started to think out their emotions and become very logical, become like Spocks. Okay, but Spocks in the extreme. And what's happened is that many of the races are now finding themselves beginning to have genetic problems, genetic degradation, and they also find that they have become almost totally dependent on technology. And here we are, on this way on the outskirts of our galaxy, this little race on this planet that has been messed with for so long and genetically altered and manipulated by as many as 22 different races, they say, that we have this incredible emotion. And they see us as actually being able to help not only them on a genetic level, on a physical level, but also on an emotional level, that we could reteach them passion so that they won't become totally dependent on technology, where we don't have to be. And I'm still a little fuzzy on how you literally create matter from nothing, but they say that all of us collectively on the planet are doing it. And they want us to try to step out of what it is that we're doing here in third density and see it for what it really is. And this is basically what their message has been.
Let's talk about Hale Bop. Now, there is so much controversy at this point. It's starting to become silly, and of course there are so many spins about this thing. Let's start first of all with what the facts are. Okay, the facts. I think I'll start with what I think the facts are anyway. According to what I think I know, or what I've heard, and what I've gleaned, this is what we know. Hale Bop is quote unquote a comet, or at least that's what we're told. And number two, it has done something that no other comet that we know of has ever done, and that is that it has changed its position many times now. And so we assume that it's a very specialized comet if it can do that. Other than that, I think that's where the speculation starts. Can you add anything to the Hale Bop now?
Well, yeah, basically, I don't think you can really believe the press. They have a lot invested in keeping us ignorant, and this is, of course, absolutely no exception. I've been told it's not a comet, that it came out of Orion originally, and that at last count, Mornay had told me that it had literally made 43 course corrections all the way back from its original departure place. I'm also told it's hollow, that it is in fact a craft, a protocol craft is what they called it, and that there are things in its tail, moons in its tail that are not moons as well. And basically, life's going to change. It's time, and once this sucker gets past us, things are going to happen, and the government should be telling us any time now that they're here.
All right, so some of the spin that I've been reading about, for example, is that the planet Nibiru is traveling behind Hale Bop. We've heard that that there's actually some telescopic pictures that have been taken of this.
Well, they're taking pictures of an object, which apparently is 4 to 5 times larger than the Earth. But I will tell you my own personal belief, Bruce, and that is that I don't believe it's Nibiru. Mornay would have told me this is something else. And I have not gotten confirmation on what it is, but the minute I do, I will let you know. But it is definitely extraterrestrial. And I get very much that the fact that it's between us and Hale Bop is a very good sign, personally.
All right. The actual time that it crosses through now, a lot of people suggest it's going to be coming through between Earth and Mars.
Yes.
That's going to make quite a disturbance in our planetary system, I would presume.
Well, it very well could, and maybe that's why this other craft is in between, is because the gravitational pull of Hale Bop would be such that it could possibly cause a pole shift. And I don't believe that would be in our best interest and would necessarily help us evolve. I think we need just a little bit more time before something drastic like that happens. Even if it wasn't that, maybe it could cause the South Pole ice cap to slip. I mean, it's in very bad shape already. So, but again, I have no confirmation of this. This is just what I do know, and piecing and putting the little pieces together. So, if you want to call it speculation, that's what it is. But life is definitely going to radically change.
Now, that should happen sometime in the spring, according to most of the guesses or guesstimates.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, we do know, for example, that most objects in space, or at least the comets and meteors, travel at about maybe upwards of 40,000 miles an hour. They say, or that they have somehow calculated, that Hale Bop seems to be moving at about 200,000 miles an hour. So that's that in itself makes it a little bit different from what we're used to.
Plus its size,
right.
Plus its emissions, plus it split itself in half and was rotating. The two halves were rotating on an invisible pole, and then put themselves back together again. This one's different, and it's basically, I guess, going to be a wake-up call. And Bruce, it's just time for a lot of folks to just. They're just going to open up their perceptions and realize that there's a lot more, to life than just paying taxes, working a job, going to the movies, and watching videos. There's a lot more to it. And
wait a minute. Are you sure about this?
It's a guesstimate.
All right. Now, you basically feel that some of the stories that we've heard about Hale Bop and all this information, and basically you have corrected us on some of it. What is the information that you're getting about, let's say, the spiritual consequences of Hale Bop?
It's going to be more of a psychological, I guess you would say, which would directly affect the spiritual. There are a lot of people who really have very little belief and faith in themselves, and they have surrounded themselves with incredibly restrictive belief systems. And these belief systems basically have kept them living in a little box. And that box is about to be blown away. And most of the people in these boxes are those who are really strict, fundamental religious thinking people. It's not that they're bad people, but they exclude other realities because they don't fit their perception of the way things are supposed to be. And trouble's coming to those people who have that belief system. There are others who are totally open and will just make leaps. The scientific community, however, is going to be the most shattered because there has been so much information, so much technology that has been withheld from us that when it finally does come out, they're going to be on the hook. They're very much going to be on the hook for having not allowed us to evolve at a faster pace. In other words, controlling our development. They've done a very, very poor job. And, for example, free energy is one of my really deep pet peeves. We've had that technology forever. Tesla was able to develop free technology in Colorado Springs, and that's all been withheld from us. And, we've trashed the planet because we didn't go to this type of energy. And, those kind of social structures, political structures are in big trouble. They're just not going to be able to keep it together, and especially they're not going to be able to maintain their credibility.
Well, I agree with you, and it'll be interesting to see what type of changes we have, but I think you're right on as far as what's going to happen. It's always hard to tell. We kind of sit back and start making guesses about what the effects will be, but we certainly know that some of the facts here are absolute, and as far as trashing the planet is concerned, you are right. We have done that, and we are all responsible for that, and I guess there's a time for a major change here. It's interesting when you follow some of the EPA problems, because it's always nice. Everyone sits back and says, yes, let's clean up the planet, but if you're going to lose your job...
yeah, or lose your rights.
Right, then that's when everybody starts to argue about, land rights and the, it's really, I don't think we really have any land rights, but I think that's what everybody's fighting about. All right, go ahead. Sounds like I have a little bit more.
The Native Americans say the earth always belongs to the earth and she'll take it whenever she wants it,
Well, who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, really.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the rumors of pickups and mass landings. What is going to happen here, or at least what do you hear?
Well, there's a lot of interesting information out there. I don't know it all, but I hear bits and pieces from friends. And, there are a lot of perspectives that directly contradict other perspectives. But I will share something with you, and that is this. As far as the photon belt, the Andromedans have never mentioned it. They have never once said that our full consciousness would come all of a sudden and we would be given this. It's never happened that they've said that. They've always said that people will have to reach deep down within themselves and rediscover who they are. Because only if you evolve yourself do you permanently evolve. It's not just given to you. And Bruce, that makes perfect sense to me. I know there are a lot of folks that want to just hand it to them. They want to take the easy way. They don't want to be here for the earth changes. They want to be beamed up or raptured. Folks, it isn't going to happen. If you're going to be raptured, you're being abducted. End of story, period. So you better really think twice about what it is you want to do and what it is you want to create, because your thoughts are creating this reality, very possibly. But there is not going to be any rescue, because they don't know what to do with us, because we are so aggressive, so warlike, and they do not want to babysit. It's really that simple. And I know that there's information out there that says that there's going to be 20 million ships in the sky by December 17th or around there. Folks, it isn't going to happen. Okay? It isn't going to happen. And the photon belt is not going to give you full consciousness on December 31st. It just isn't going to be that easy. Is that a break?
Well, yeah, we're having our. You've been on so many times, it's the clue. It's the clue music. It's telling us that we're going to get close for a break.
Okay.
And I think you and I have talked about this before, and I think it's something a lot of people like to wish for. It's kind of like it's nice, to believe in Santa Claus and all that. Very important, and it's good. It's right. Good. There is a Santa Claus, and so on and so forth. But I think what you're saying is that, and I believe this too, if you're waiting for someone to come and take you up and save you,
you've
right.
learned absolutely nothing.
Right.
In all your lifetimes here.
Yeah. So that's one thing we hear all the time, and you have definitely set yourself on the outside of that group in the ET community that pretty much talks about the landings and the pickups. So that's one difference. And I agree with you. I'm really a little bit hesitant about going up there with a bunch of guys that tell me they've got the answer. We have to be
right. Once you're up there, what are you giving away?
I'll tell you what you're giving away. Where you've been. I'm not sure I understand that one. I promised we would continue with the pickups and mass landings and then talk about the ET races. Real quickly, just to review, Alex, you say that they are not coming to pick us up, or if they do, they're not the ones we definitely want to go with.
That's exactly right. There are, the benevolent races, I have learned, will not take your power. No matter how much you give it to them, they will not, because they don't want it. They want you to be an equal. They want to be able to respect you as an equal, and that means that you have to stand in your own power. And there are a lot of folks that want to give their power away, that want to relinquish their free will because of, certain safeties they think they'll have. And all you have to do is read our past history, read Zecharia Sitchin's work, William Bramley's work, and you will see that when we've worshipped these beings in the past and we've given our power away, we have been screwed as a race. It's all there. And, I'm determined not to let that happen again. And that's basically what their message is that, they need us, we don't need them. It's really that simple, and we are in a very unique position. But there's not a lot of leadership, and the Andromedans have always talked about the law of consistency about their race. And Bruce, every single person in their race is a leader. They will accept leadership in a moment's notice. They look to be leaders. They look to teach. They look to evolve their entire race. The oldest and wisest teach the youngest what they know, so that the children are always smarter than their parents. And there's not a problem with this because everybody realizes it's for the betterment of the race. We don't do those kind of things here. We are like self-destructing everywhere, and yet we are these incredibly unique beings. And, I would urge everybody to truly become sovereign, to become self-sufficient, to just decide that you're going to be a leader and not be afraid to take responsibility, because when our social systems collapse, folks, it's going to be up to us. And, let's face it, we are the government. It works for us. And, we just need to take some more responsibility here for what's going on.
All right, responsibility is the key word, and I have to be responsible to my listeners. So let's take some calls, and you're on the air with Alex Collier. I believe we have Ken.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hi, Ken. Thank you for calling.
Yes. Hi, Bruce. Great show.
Thanks.
Alex, I was reading up a little bit on you last night. I was reading the Leading Edge interview, Leading Edge Journal interview on the Leading Edge website with Val Valerian.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was Val Valerian. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. You got it.
Okay. Because I've also been reading some interviews with Junvala Melchizedek. What I wanted to ask you is I have several questions, and one of which is, have the Andromedans mentioned anything about Flower of Life or Merkaba, pranic breathing, or anything like that?
As a matter of fact, Ken, they have, and I have a good friend, Mike, who's out here in Colorado, who approached me with Drunvalo's information, and I've taken it and asked Mornay about it, and his response was that it was a very useful tool, but he felt that the only change that, in their perspective, would help speed the process was if you were to take the Merkaba, and instead of building it around your physical body, their suggestion was to build it above your head where the 8th chakra is, where literally your intent, which becomes a holograph, is what creates your third density reality, that if you created it there, it would literally change you from the inside out. The Andromedan perspective was that trying to build it outside your physical body puts more intention and more focus on the physical.
Right. That would be an external Merkaba, which has been mentioned in various teachings from Drunvalo. There's Bob Frizzell's book, Nothing in This Book is Real. That the internal Merkaba would be from a perspective of love, and the external Merkaba would be kind of like what the Greys are about. No love, absence completely.
Well, I don't know about the internal. That information wasn't given to me, just the external. So I didn't ask.
What are your feelings about these latest appearances of these beings who've been coming out of this volcano in Mexico? The shiny luminescent beings that have been seen all over by media and such, and obviously very much suppressed here in the United States, nothing coming out. Have you heard anything about this?
Yes, sir, I have.
Yeah.
And they've been here forever. They've been here forever.
They're living inside our Earth.
Yes, sir, they are. Approximately 612 miles. There are huge underground cities.
So then would the theory of the hollow Earth be true then?
Yes, sir, it is true.
It is true.
It's no longer a theory. It's been exposed.
It's been exposed. It's a fact.
Ken, I know you've got a world of questions, but I've got to let some of the other listeners in, so I hope you'll appreciate the fact that you got through, but we've got to let you go.
Okay, then.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. Rick, you're on the line with Alex Collier, my guest.
Hey.
Yeah, I was wondering where you get the scientific evidence for some of these things.
Actually, we started with the fact that there is no scientific evidence for this.
It's just fantasy. Right?
No. We didn't say it's fantasy. We just said that there's no scientific evidence. Go ahead, Alex, and Rick, enjoy yourself.
Well, I hear where you're coming from. All I do is present the information they've given me. And some of it apparently has been validated, and it's beginning to be validated. And there are other people prior to me, other researchers who have exposed certain things that, of course, was poo-pooed and not given any credibility, but years down the road have been given credibility, and it's turned out to be fact. So, the only suggestion I have for you, sir, is, the mind is like a parachute that only works when it's open. Keep an open mind, and if it's all BS, then the truth will come out, and if it's all true, the truth will still come out, because in the end, the truth is the only thing left standing. And I have my truth. I definitely know these beings. I love them. They're my brothers, my friends, and but that's my reality. I don't expect
you know them
it to
in your
be
mind,
yours.
or
I'm sorry?
You know them in your mind?
No, sir.
What do you mean you know them?
I know them. I've lived with them for 31 years. They've been a part of my life.
All right. Well, listen, Rick, I want to thank you very much for your call. If you have another question, that'd be great. But otherwise, I want to get some other listeners on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for calling in, and I'm glad that you enjoy the show, or at least I hope you do.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the ET races while we've hit them a few times. Now, the ones living inside the Earth, do they have a name or a category?
I've only been given a symbol, and I couldn't draw it to you over the phone.
All right, so they have a symbol, okay.
Yeah, but they're remnants of other colonies that were here, and some of them have been here for a very long time. They have incredible technology, and I don't exactly know why, Bruce, they've stayed. Well,
maybe they like it here, Maybe it's a nice place.
Yeah. I wish more people here thought that way.
I tell people when
on
they
the surface,
I don't know, because, when people talk about the possibility of a hollow Earth and why would people live inside it, I always say the same thing. If you build a house, where do you live, outside it or inside it?
Exactly.
So, I'll leave them with that one. So that's one of the races that we know about. Why don't we talk about the ones that have names and the ones that you would like to tell us about this morning?
Well, the Andromedans I've touched on already. The Pleiadians, of course, are very popular in UFO circles. And the Ps have a very rich history with our planet and with our solar system and other planetary systems. But they have, bottom line, and I'm just going to put this out there, they have not been totally honest with, their past with us. There have been some abuses as well against our race. And, there are some Pleiadians, they're not all benevolent. There are still some who have radical belief systems and do not want to see us evolve because we're considered beasts to them. But personally, that's their problem. Then there's the Sirens, the Cirrus A, there's Cirrus B, and I understand that sometime in the next 100 years, when we move through into fifth density, we'll be there. We will have contact with groups from Cirrus C, which apparently it's being colonized as we speak. But the Cirrus Bs, they're very strongly connected to the Nibiru and to Orion. And they are responsible for a majority of our religions and for setting up caste systems, which, of course, have hampered our evolvement. Then there's Orion. There are some good Orions, but apparently they're very few on the higher dimensions. But those that interact with us on Earth, they're not so good. They have a very strong belief system that because they are technologically superior, they have the right to own anything they want and to use it as a natural resource. And that's happened to us. That's happened to our planet and our energy, our soul essence. A lot of it is being used as a natural resource. So there's very little respect from that particular race.
Does it sound a lot like the Alpha Draconans?
Well, yes, it's exactly the same belief system.
Except that the Alpha Draconans
are a much older race,
and definitely the warriors of the universe.
They're considered the warriors, and they apparently are if the oldest race in our galaxy. And they've explored, and everywhere they've gone, they've popped their little flag and said, this is ours. And they've caused a lot of wars and a lot of bloodshed, and they, from what I've been told, still do not like human beings. And basically what happens is, Bruce, is when they go in and they conquer a race or a solar system, what they'll do is they'll genetically implant them with their genetics. And what it does is, let's say you have a pure human being. What they'll do is they'll take the women, they will implant them with different DNA and genetics, literally change their genetics so that their offspring have more reptilian genetics in them. And what that does is it literally changes their frequency and their physiology. And it's easier to create a different mindset when you have genetics, those type of genetics. And that's basically how it's done. They don't use brainwashing. They don't use any of those technologies because they don't work. They're very short term. But if you genetically alter the race, it is never the same from the first to second generation on.
Welcome to the show, Paul. You're on the line with Alex Collier.
Hello.
Good morning. Alex, I have a question for you.
Yes, who are you?
My name is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. I heard you before talking about the scientific evidence, and the gentleman had asked you about that, and you said you're kind of like a voyeur for bringing that information forward. And you also said that you had some experiences with these folks for like 31 years.
Yes, sir. Off and on.
Off and on. When you talk about this, I think what people really need to hear is not about feelings and emotions about this, but people, I feel, are really out there trying to get information. And when you say you're a voyeur of information, it's important that you bring information that's going to help clarify instead of mystify. Because right now, for me, I'm getting that this is a mystery, and I don't know if that's going to help.
Well, what's the mystery for you? I have no idea where you're at.
The mystery for me is in your communication about this topic. I feel like let's be specific and clear and help get the answers out there that need to be heard. A gentleman asked you where to get the scientific evidence from. Let us know. How did you know about all these things? Be specific with us.
Paul, let me interrupt for a second, because I like to say this in all honesty and or at least from my honesty, and that is this: Timeless Voyager Radio has definitely been on the outskirts of science. And there is an agenda. I have an agenda, and I want you to know that science definitely has a place in our lives, but science does not rule Timeless Voyager Radio.
I understand.
And so it's not that I don't want to become confrontational with people, but I like to remind listeners and anyone that the purpose of the show has always been to offer something besides science. And a lot of my guests come on the show and they don't have scientific evidence. It's very hard to show you something fourth dimensionally when science can't see or prove fourth dimensionality.
Well, wait, my question is not about if science. I don't care about really science. Science is just a way of proving something. I'm saying, if these things exist, if they do, what's your evidence? I mean, let us know how you've come about these truths. Where have you seen these things? How, the evidence that you have. That doesn't mean it's science. It's just that we need to be very clear in our communication. And what I'm saying is I'm getting a sense of mysticism instead of a sense of communication about his truths about this.
Okay, now let me let Alex answer it, because I think it's more fair for him. But I will say this before Alex comes on, and Paul, I want to thank you for your call. If you get cut off, it's because we're running out of time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
But let me just say this, and then Alex, you can continue. If you missed the beginning of the show, let me review that Alex has had an ongoing private relationship with two contactees, or he has been a contactee with two beings from the Andromedids, or their Andromedan beings, and that's real hard to prove. That's hard to show evidence for, and that's basically the basis of today's show. Alex, why don't you continue from that?
Okay. Is the young man still on the phone?
Yes, I'm still here.
Still there.
Paul, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Where do you live, Alex?
I live in Colorado.
Colorado, okay. I'm in California.
Yeah, I know. Let me address your question this way. There is proof of their existence, and when I'm told it is time to show it, I will definitely be doing it. The second is I've been given information for years about Earth history, things about the past, things about the future, and things about what are politically been going on underground. And I literally mean underground. Okay? And I've been talking on the circuit for 4 years. Much of the information, at least 85% of it, has come to pass. Or the reasons the Andromedans said these things happen have come to pass. And, this is probably the first you've heard of this, and I can't expect you to know 31 years worth of information in 15 or even an hour's worth of radio listening. But I would suggest that you search the web. The information's there. At the moment there's any updates, I put it out there. Because this is about us, and like I told the last person, really pay attention to the scientific community. There are things coming out. There is information coming out. There are people from the military who are leaving, starting to tell what they know. There are people in the scientific community starting to come out and tell what they know. And you're going to be amazed at how big the lie has been to keep us suppressed as a race.
About the information about
ETs, about our interaction with them, about our past. What we call mythology is actually, they're beginning to start to find archaeological proof.
Now, folks, I have got to stop it. I'm awfully sorry.
Okay.
We're actually out of time. Paul, thank you so much for your call. I know we're going to have a 30-hour show.
This is how it gets good, though.
All right, well, Paul, Alex, we are absolutely out of time.
God, Bruce, it went by so fast. I want to thank you. Thank you so much. And
I want to give you some time to just kind of wrap this thing up. Paul, thanks for the call. Ken, Rick, I really appreciate it. We really do need more time for the show. I know that, and we'll see if we can get some advertisers to help kick in some money so we can have more time. Let's see if we can wrap up some of these things, because I don't want to just leave people hanging here.
Okay, I would just like to say one thing, and share an experience with your listeners. And I may have done this the last time we did it, but I want to do it again just in case. And that is, there was one night I was living in Lake Arrowhead that I had a contact. I was being brought back, and I did not want to come back. This was 91, somewhere in 91, and I was having a Murphy year. Just everything was going wrong for me, and I didn't want to come back. And I was told I had to come back because this was my home. So as I was on the ground, I was crying. And Visayas was in the craft, and it was lifting up off the ground, and I heard him in my head. He said, "Alex, turn around." And I turned around, and he looked at me, and he smiled, and he said, "Alex, the love that you withhold is the pain that you carry, lifetime after lifetime." And I want to share that with people because, folks, that changed my life, my entire perspective on who I was and what I was doing. Because, I had to look at every decision I made and had to look at where was the intention coming from. Was it coming from selfishness? Was it coming from a place of fear? Was it coming from a place of love? And, honestly, Bruce, when I look back at all the places where I withheld love, those were the most trying times in my life. So I was responsible for it all. I wasn't a victim in any way.
Very good point. And I think, again, and I want to review our callers, because I think in each case, it wasn't that anyone was saying we need to prove or disprove. I think the question was, what does this mean? How are we supposed to deal with it? And I think that's a good way to deal with it. The point is that, as Al, I was going to say, in The Wizard of Oz, as our main character found out, it was in the shoes. Just click them together. You're already home. There's no place to go.
That's right.
And the rest of us are like the wizard. Anyway.
Or like the Tin Man or the Cowardly Lion. To your listeners that are skeptical, Just devote an hour a week. Become a researcher, become a detective, and the information is there, and it will make you'll just see all the pieces fall into place as to what's going on.
Alex, thanks so much.
You're welcome, Bruce. Thank you.
Have a good week, and for the rest of you, hey, this is it, folks. Please tune in next week for another Timeless Voyager Radio.